Captain Zethkar stood tall on the bridge of his warship. The ship was called Void Striker, and it was one of the biggest ships in the hegemony fleet. Zethkar was young for a captain. He had 4 arms like all his people and skin that looked like green leather. His eyes were yellow and cold. The scanner made a sound. One of his crew members looked at the screen and his face went pale. "Captain," the crew member said, "we found a small ship." Zethkar walked over to look at the scanner. The screen showed a tiny human ship floating in space. It was damaged and not moving. The scanner had words on it that made Zethkar angry. The words said, "Earthborn, do not engage, extreme caution advised." "What is this?" Zethkar said. His voice was loud and angry. "One small ship with 1 human female, and the computer tells us to run away?" The bridge crew looked at each other. They were all Vorthak warriors like their captain. They were big and strong and had sharp teeth, but they all knew the stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew those stories. "Captain," said Commander Vrex. He was the oldest warrior on the ship. "The humans are dangerous, very dangerous. Maybe we should listen to the warning." Zethkar laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "You believe old stories? Tales told by cowards who lost fights?" He pointed at the screen with one of his 4 arms. "Look at it. 1 tiny ship, 1 small female. What could she do to us?" Commander Vrex did not look happy. "Sir, the reports say humans are different. They come from a death world. They are stronger and faster than they look. They never give up fighting." "Stories," Zethkar said again. He was getting angrier. "I have never seen a human. Have you seen a human? Has anyone on this ship seen a human?" He looked around the bridge. No one answered. "Then how do we know these stories are true?" The captain walked back to his command chair. He was proud and young and wanted to prove himself. He had been captain for only 6 months. The other captains in the fleet had more experience. They had captured many ships and many prisoners. Zethkar wanted to show them he was just as good. "Sir," said the navigation officer, "the human ship has no weapons. The engines are broken. It cannot run away." Zethkar smiled. His teeth were sharp and white. "Perfect. We will board the ship. We will take the human prisoner. Then we will sell her at the slave markets on Zerion Prime. A real live human will bring us a lot of money." Commander Vrex stepped forward. "Captain, I must ask you to think about this. The scanner warning is there for a reason. Our people did not put it there as a joke." Zethkar turned to face his old commander. His yellow eyes were burning with anger. "Are you questioning my orders, Commander?" "No, sir," Vrex said quickly. "I am just giving you my advice." "I do not need advice from scared old warriors," Zethkar said. His voice was cold now. "I need soldiers who will follow orders." He turned to the rest of the bridge crew. "Prepare the boarding parties. 12 warriors with full weapons. We will take that human ship in 10 minutes. The crew began to work. They did not look happy, but they followed orders. That was what good soldiers did. The weapons officer armed the tractor beam. The boarding party got ready in the hangar bay. Commander Vrex walked over to the captain's chair. "Sir, may I ask one more thing?" Zethkar was getting tired of the old warrior's questions. "What is it? Why does the computer have that warning? Our scanners are very smart. They can tell us about every ship and every species in the galaxy. If the warning says do not engage, maybe there is a good reason." The captain stood up from his chair. He was much taller than the commander. "The warning is there because our people are weak. They are scared of stories and rumors. But I am not scared. I am Zethkar of the Void Striker. I do not run from one small human female." The tractor beam reached out and grabbed the human ship. The small vessel did not fight back. It just let itself be pulled into the hangar bay of the Void Striker. The whole thing was easy. Too easy, Commander Vrex thought. "See?" Zethkar said. "No fight, no resistance, Just one scared human waiting for us to capture her. Inside the human ship, Lieutenant Kate Rodriguez finished eating her meal. She was sitting at a small table in the main cabin of her ship. The ship was called Lucky Strike, and it had been her home for the past 3 months. Kate was not very tall and had brown hair. She looked like a normal human woman. She was wearing simple clothes and had no weapons that anyone could see. Kate felt the tractor beam grab her ship. She had been waiting for this to happen. Her navigation computer had broken 3 days ago and left her stuck in this part of space. She knew the hegemony ships would find her soon. She had hoped they would just ignore the scanner warning and move on, but it looked like she would not be that lucky. She stood up and walked to the small mirror on the wall. Her reflection looked back at her. Brown eyes, normal face, nothing special. The aliens would see a weak human female. They would not see the 20 years of military training. They would not see the veteran of 12 major battles. They would not see the warrior who had killed more enemy soldiers than most entire units. Kate heard the sound of cutting tools on her airlock door. They were coming. She walked back to the table and sat down. Her hands were folded in her lap. She looked calm and peaceful. She did not look like someone who was about to change the galaxy forever. The cutting stopped. She heard heavy footsteps in the corridor. The boarding party was inside her ship now. Kate took a deep breath and waited. In a few minutes, she would show the hegemony why the scanner warning existed. Captain Zethkar would learn why smart people listened to their computers. He would learn why his people feared humans. But by then, it would be too late for him to use that knowledge. The boarding party cut through the airlock door with plasma torches. The metal fell to the floor with a loud crash. 12 Vorthak warriors stepped into the human ship. They were all big and strong. Each one was almost 8 feet tall and carried a plasma rifle. Their armor was thick and black. Their faces were hidden behind combat masks. Sergeant Krex led the group. He had fought in many battles and captured many ships, but he had never seen a human before. Like the rest of his squad, he expected to find a scared merchant or a crying passenger, someone who would beg for mercy and cause no trouble. Instead, they found Kate Rodriguez sitting at a small table. She was looking right at them with calm eyes. She did not move. She did not scream. She just watched them like she was waiting for something interesting to happen. "Human," Sergeant Krex said in bad standard language. "You come now. Captain wants to see you." Kate stood up slowly. There was something in the way she moved that made the Vorthak soldiers step back without thinking. It was like watching a sleeping tiger wake up. She looked small and harmless, but something deep in their brains told them they were in danger. "I suppose I do not have a choice," Kate said quietly. Her voice was calm and steady. Sergeant Krex nodded to his men. 2 soldiers moved behind Kate while the others formed a circle around her. They kept their rifles ready, but they did not point them at her. She was not armed, and she was not fighting. There was no need to be rough with one small human female. They walked through the corridors of the Void Striker. Kate looked at everything as they moved. She counted doors and windows. She saw where the weapon storage rooms were located. She noticed which walls looked weak and which looked strong. She was memorizing the ship layout like a professional soldier. The Vorthak warriors did not notice what she was doing. They thought she was just scared and looking around because she was nervous. They had no idea she was planning their deaths. Commander Vrex was waiting near the bridge when the boarding party returned. He looked at the human prisoner and felt worried. She did not look like what he expected. The stories said humans were always fighting and screaming when they were captured. This one looked too calm, too ready. "Sergeant," Commander Vrex said, "did you search her ship?" "Yes, sir," Krex replied. "We found some personal items, clothes and food, no weapons, no military equipment, nothing dangerous." Commander Vrex nodded, but he still felt worried. Something was wrong, but he could not say what it was. The human just stood there looking at them with those calm brown eyes, like she was studying them. The bridge doors opened and they walked inside. Captain Zethkar was standing at his command console with his back to them. He wanted to make a dramatic entrance. He wanted the human to see how big and powerful he was. When he turned around, Zethkar expected to see fear in the human's eyes. He expected her to be impressed by his size and his rank. Instead, Kate looked at him the same way she had looked at the boarding party, like she was measuring him for a coffin. "So," Captain Zethkar said with a big smile, "this is the mighty human. You are much smaller than I thought you would be." He walked closer to get a better look. "The stories make your people sound like giants and monsters, but you look like nothing special." Kate did not answer. She just kept looking at him with those steady eyes. Zethkar was getting annoyed. Prisoners were supposed to be scared. They were supposed to beg and cry and ask for mercy. This human was not acting right. "Take her to the holding cells," he told Sergeant Krex. "Tomorrow we will take her to Zarion Prime. The flesh traders will pay good money for something so exotic." "You should have listened to your scanner," Kate said quietly. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at the human prisoner. Her voice had not been loud, but something in it made them all pay attention. Captain Zethkar laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed around the bridge. "My scanner? You mean that silly warning? Your reputation has been greatly exaggerated, little human." He walked even closer until he was standing right in front of her. "What could you possibly do against the might of the hegemony?" Kate smiled then. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just decided to hunt. Every Vorthak on the bridge suddenly felt cold. Their old survival instincts were screaming warnings, but they were too civilized to listen. "I guess you will find out," Kate said. Sergeant Krex grabbed her arm. "Come on, human. Time to go to your cell." Kate let them lead her away. She walked between the guards like she was taking a casual stroll, but Commander Vrex watched her carefully. He saw how she moved. He saw how she looked at everything around her. He had been a soldier for 50 years, and he knew what a trained warrior looked like. The holding cells were on the lower deck of the ship. They walked down 2 levels and through several corridors. Kate counted every step and memorized every turn. She saw the guard stations and the weapon lockers. She noticed which areas had security cameras and which areas were blind spots. The cell was a simple energy barrier surrounding a small room. Inside was a narrow bed and a small toilet. Nothing else. No weapons, no tools, nothing that could be used to escape. "Get in," Sergeant Krex ordered. Kate stepped into the cell. The energy barrier activated behind her with a soft humming sound. She was trapped now. At least that was what the Vorthak soldiers thought. "Someone will come for you in a few hours," Krex told her. "The captain wants to ask you some questions about human trade routes. If you cooperate, things will go easier for you." Kate sat down on the narrow bed and folded her hands in her lap. "I understand," she said. The guards left her alone. Kate listened to their footsteps fade away. Then she began to wait. She was very good at waiting. She had learned patience in the military. She had learned to stay calm and think clearly, even when death was very close. The Vorthak crew went back to their normal duties. They thought the dangerous part was over. They had captured the human without any trouble. Now all they had to do was deliver her to the slave markets and collect their money. Captain Zethkar was very pleased with himself. He had ignored the scanner warning and nothing bad had happened. He had captured a real, live human. The other captains would be jealous. He would be famous throughout the fleet. None of them knew that Kate Rodriguez was not just any human. She was a veteran of the Kepler Station massacre, where 47 humans had held off 10,000 enemy soldiers for 6 days. She had more combat experience than the entire crew of the Void Striker combined. And now she was loose inside their ship with nothing to lose and all the time in the world to plan their deaths. Kate sat on the narrow bed in her cell for 3 hours. She did not move much, but her mind was very busy. She was planning everything that would happen next. She knew the Vorthak patterns from studying intelligence reports during the war. They would come for her soon to ask questions. That would be her chance. The energy barrier that kept her trapped was strong, but it had one weakness. It was designed to keep prisoners from leaving the cell. It was not designed to stop things from coming into the cell. When the guards opened it to bring her out, she would be ready. Kate heard footsteps in the corridor. 3 guards were coming. She could tell by the sound of their heavy boots on the metal floor. She stood up and walked to the center of the cell. Her hands hung loose at her sides. She looked calm and relaxed. The footsteps stopped outside her cell. "Human," said a voice she recognized. It was Sergeant Krex. "Time for questioning. Come quietly and you will not be hurt." The energy barrier flickered and disappeared. 3 Vorthak soldiers stepped into the cell. They were carrying plasma rifles, but the weapons were not pointed at her. They thought she was helpless. Kate moved faster than any of them expected. Her first target was the guard on her left. She stepped forward and drove her fist into his throat with surgical precision. The blow crushed his windpipe and he dropped his weapon as he fell to the floor, choking. The second guard tried to raise his rifle, but Kate was already moving. She ducked under the barrel of his gun and swept his legs. As he fell backward, she grabbed his head and twisted it sharply to the left. The crack of breaking bones echoed through the cell. Sergeant Krex was the most experienced fighter of the 3. He managed to step back and point his weapon at Kate, but she was faster than he was. She rolled across the floor and came up with the first guard's rifle in her hands. Krex fired, but his shot went wide. Kate's shot did not miss. The whole fight took less than 20 seconds. 3 Vorthak warriors were dead, and Kate was armed. She checked the weapon and found it was fully charged. She also took the ammunition packs from the dead guards. She would need all the firepower she could get. An alarm began to wail throughout the ship. Someone had found the bodies or noticed that the guards were not reporting in. Kate smiled grimly. Now the real fight would begin. She moved out of the cell and into the corridor. The detention level was not heavily guarded because prisoners were supposed to be safely locked away. Kate used this to her advantage. She moved quickly through the passages, avoiding the main corridors where more guards might be waiting. The first response team consisted of 6 Vorthak soldiers. They came running down the corridor with their weapons ready. Kate was waiting for them in a side passage. She opened fire as soon as they came into view. The narrow corridor became a killing ground. The aliens had superior firepower, but Kate had superior position and training. When the shooting stopped, 6 more Vorthak warriors were dead. Kate took their weapons and ammunition. She was building up an arsenal for the fight ahead. The ship's internal communication system crackled to life. "All units to detention level 7, Captain Zethkar's voice said. "The human prisoner has escaped. She is armed and extremely dangerous. Use all necessary force to recapture her." Kate laughed quietly. Now they were taking her seriously. But it was too late. She was no longer a prisoner. She was a hunter, loose inside their ship. She made her way toward the ship's main power distribution center. If she could damage the power systems, she could create chaos and confusion. In the dark, her human eyes would give her an advantage over the Vorthak vision systems. Another team of guards found her near the engineering section. There were 8 of them this time, and they were better prepared. They had taken positions behind cover and were trying to pin her down with crossfire. Kate used the ship's own design against them. She shot out a power conduit that ran along the ceiling. Sparks and electricity filled the corridor as the lights went out. In the darkness, she moved like a ghost. The Vorthak soldiers fired at shadows while Kate picked them off one by one. By the time the emergency lighting came on, 8 more aliens were dead and Kate was gone. She had vanished into the maintenance shafts that ran throughout the ship. Captain Zethkar was getting reports from all over his vessel. The human had killed 17 of his crew members in less than an hour. She was moving through his ship like a force of nature. His soldiers were trained warriors, but they had never faced anything like this. "Sir," Commander Vrex said quietly, "perhaps we should consider escape pods. We could abandon ship and call for backup." Zethkar turned on him with fury in his yellow eyes. "Abandon ship? To one small human female? Never! I will not be remembered as the captain who ran away from a single prisoner. Sir, she has already killed 17 of our people. She is moving toward the upper levels. If she reaches the bridge, then we will stop her before she gets there," Zethkar said firmly. "Deploy all remaining security teams. Set up defensive positions on every level between here and the detention area. She cannot fight all of us." But Kate was not planning to fight all of them at once. She was using hit-and-run tactics that the Vorthak soldiers could not counter. She would appear, kill several enemies, and then disappear again before reinforcements could arrive. She found the ship's armory and helped herself to better weapons. Plasma grenades, heavy rifles, and combat armor that she modified to fit her smaller frame. She was turning the Vorthak ship into her personal weapons cache. Another squad of soldiers tried to corner her in the mess hall. Kate used the tables and chairs as weapons, throwing them with enough force to break bones. She fought with everything around her, turning ordinary objects into deadly tools. The maintenance shafts became her highway system. She could move from one part of the ship to another without being seen. The Vorthak soldiers had to guard every corridor and every room, but Kate could strike anywhere she wanted. Captain Zethkar watched his crew numbers dropping on the status display. 23 dead. 26 dead. 30 dead. The human was cutting through his people like they were made of paper. "How is this possible?" he asked himself. "She is just one person. One small female from a backward planet." Commander Vrex checked his weapon and prepared for battle. "Sir, the reports were true. Humans are not like other species. They do not know how to surrender. They do not know how to give up. And they are much more dangerous than they look." The bridge crew could hear the sounds of fighting getting closer. Plasma fire echoed through the corridors. Men were screaming and dying just a few levels below them. The human was coming for them all. Kate Rodriguez had become exactly what the scanner warning had tried to prevent. She was a human warrior with nothing to lose and everything to fight for. She was death in human form, and she was bringing that death to everyone who had ignored the warning. Captain Zethkar stood behind the sealed doors of his bridge with 12 crew members. They were all that remained of his once proud crew. 37 Vorthak warriors were dead, and the human was still coming. She had fought her way through 5 levels of his ship, and nothing had been able to stop her. "Lock down all bridge access points," Zethkar ordered. His voice was not as steady as it had been a few hours ago. "Seal the emergency doors. She cannot get through if we make the bridge into a fortress." Commander Vrex was checking his plasma rifle for the 3rd time. His hands were shaking slightly. "Sir, she got through everything else. Locked doors will not stop her." "They have to," Zethkar said. "We are running out of options." The bridge crew worked at their stations, but they all kept looking at the doors. They could hear sounds in the corridors outside. Metal being cut. Footsteps that came and went like a ghost was walking through their ship. Sometimes they heard plasma fire. Sometimes they heard screams that ended too quickly. The main viewer showed the ship's internal sensors. Red dots marked where crew members should be stationed. Most of the red dots had gone dark. The few that remained were clustered around the bridge level. Everyone else was dead. "How did this happen?" asked the navigation officer. His name was Krell, and he was young. "She is just one person. We had over 50 trained soldiers." "Humans fight differently," Commander Vrex said quietly. "They do not follow the rules. They use everything around them as weapons. They never surrender and they never stop fighting." A sound came from the main access door. metal scraping against metal. The cutting had begun. Kate Rodriguez was coming through the heaviest security door on the ship like it was made of paper. Captain Zethkar drew his ceremonial sword. It was a beautiful weapon that had been in his family for 8 generations. The blade was made of special metal that could cut through starship hull plating. "If she wants to reach me, she will have to go through all of us." The crew members raised their weapons and pointed them at the door. They were good soldiers, and they would follow their captain's orders, but they all knew they were about to die. The cutting stopped. Everything became very quiet. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines and the nervous breathing of the bridge crew. Then the door exploded inward. Kate Rodriguez stepped through the smoking hole like she was walking into her own home. Her stolen Vorthak armor was damaged and stained with alien blood. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. She carried a plasma rifle in one hand and a combat knife in the other. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "You are just one small female." Kate looked around the bridge at the 12 remaining crew members. They all had weapons pointed at her, but she did not seem worried. "That is what the last captain said," she replied, "right before I threw him out his own airlock." The bridge crew opened fire all at once. 12 plasma rifles fired at the same target, but Kate was already moving. She flowed between the energy beams like liquid lightning. She used the bridge equipment as cover and turned the crew's own consoles against them. The weapons officer tried to track her with his rifle, but Kate was too fast. She grabbed a loose piece of metal from the destroyed door and threw it with deadly accuracy. It hit him in the face and crushed his skull. The communications officer ducked behind his station and tried to call for help. Kate appeared behind him like a shadow. The combat knife found his throat before he could speak. 2 guards tried to rush her from different sides. Kate dropped the empty rifle and met them with her bare hands. The first guard was larger and stronger than her, but she used his size against him. She grabbed his arm and used his own momentum to throw him into a control panel. The electricity killed him instantly. The second guard managed to grab her from behind. For a moment, it looked like the Vorthak's superior strength would win. Then Kate drove her elbow back into his ribs with enough force to break bones. She spun around and grabbed his head. One quick twist and he fell to the floor. In less than 2 minutes, only Captain Zethkar remained alive. He was standing behind his command chair with his ceremonial sword in his hands. The blade gleamed under the bridge lights. Kate walked toward him with slow, deliberate steps. She had dropped all her weapons. She was going to finish this with her bare hands. "You wanted to know what I could do against the might of the hegemony," she said in a conversational tone. "Let me show you." Zethkar raised his sword above his head. He was bigger than the human. He was stronger. He had a weapon that could cut through anything. He should have been able to win this fight easily. The battle lasted 11 seconds. Kate moved faster than the Vorthak captain could follow. She ducked under his first swing and stepped inside his guard. Her fist connected with his wrist and broke the bones. The sword fell from his nerveless fingers. Zethkar tried to grab her with his other arms, but Kate was like smoke. She flowed around his attacks and struck with surgical precision. A blow to his knee broke his leg. A strike to his elbow shattered the joint. The captain fell to the floor, but Kate was not finished. She picked up his ceremonial sword and looked at it with professional interest. "Nice blade," she said, "very sharp." Zethkar tried to crawl away, but there was nowhere to go. Kate grabbed him by the back of his armor and lifted him up. With her enhanced human strength and training, she was able to manhandle the larger alien. She dragged him to his command chair and forced him to sit down. Then she positioned the sword carefully and drove it through his heart. Zethkar's yellow eyes went wide with shock and pain. He tried to speak, but only blood came out. "You should have listened to the scanner," Kate said quietly. "Captain Zethkar died in his own chair, killed by his own weapon, at the hands of the small human female he had thought was harmless. Kate stood in the middle of the bridge and looked around at the destruction. 12 more Vorthak bodies lay scattered around the room. The ship's computer was still working, and she could access all the systems from the captain's chair. She sat down and began typing commands into the computer. First, she disabled all the ship's weapons so it could not be used to attack other vessels. Then she accessed the communication system and prepared a message that would be broadcast throughout hegemony space. The message would tell every alien ship what happened when they ignored scanner warnings about humans. It would include video recordings from the bridge security cameras. It would show the galaxy exactly what one human female could do when she was cornered and had nothing to lose. Kate looked at the dead captain in front of her. "You wanted to be famous," she said. "Well, now you will be. You will be the captain who proved that the scanner warnings were right." She finished programming the message and set it to broadcast on all hegemony frequencies. Then she walked to the captain's personal shuttle bay. It was time to leave this ship of the dead and find her way back to human space. Behind her, the bridge was silent except for the hum of computers and the slow drip of alien blood on the metal floor. 3 days later, Admiral Thekvar of the Hegemony High Command was having his morning meal when the emergency communication came in. He was old for a Vorthak and had fought in many wars. Very few things could surprise him anymore, but the report about the Void Striker made his blood run cold. "Show me the transmission," he ordered his aide. The holographic display activated and showed the bridge of Captain Zethkar's ship. The scene was like something from a nightmare. 38 Vorthak bodies were scattered throughout the vessel. The bridge itself was a slaughterhouse with blood on every surface. Captain Zethkar's corpse sat in his command chair with his own ceremonial sword driven through his heart. His neck was twisted at an impossible angle. His yellow eyes stared at nothing. The ship's computer began playing a recorded message. A human female appeared on the screen. She was small and ordinary-looking with brown hair and calm eyes. She did not look like a monster, but she was sitting in the middle of mass destruction. "This is Lieutenant Kate Rodriguez of the Earth Colonial Marines," the human said. Her voice was steady and professional. "Your captain chose to ignore a very reasonable warning. I suggest you do not make the same mistake." The message was accompanied by security footage from throughout the ship. The recording showed the human female moving through the corridors like death itself. She killed trained Vorthak warriors with her bare hands. She used their own weapons against them. She turned their ship into a tomb. Admiral Thekvar watched the footage 3 times before he could believe what he was seeing. One small human had destroyed an entire ship of elite warriors. She had done it alone and with minimal equipment. It should have been impossible, but the evidence was right in front of him. "Send this recording to all ship captains immediately," he told his aide, "and update the scanner warning protocols. Make them more clear about the danger humans represent." "Yes, sir," the aide said. "Should we also increase patrols in the area where this happened?" "No," Admiral Thekvar said firmly. "We should avoid that area completely. And if any ship detects humans, they are to retreat immediately. No exceptions." The message from the Void Striker spread through hegemony space like wildfire. It was transmitted from ship to ship and planet to planet. Within a week, every alien commander in the galaxy had seen the footage of what one human female could do. The scanner warning system was updated with new information. The old warning had said, "Earthborn, do not engage, extreme caution advised." The new warning was much longer and included graphic details about human combat capabilities. It also included the security recordings from the Void Striker. When young aliens asked why they should fear humans, their commanders would show them the footage of Kate Rodriguez. They would explain that this was what happened when you ignored warnings about Earthborn vessels. Captain Jexitar of the raider ship Bloodfang was one of the first to encounter the new warnings. His ship detected a small human trading vessel in the outer rim. It was alone and lightly armed. In the old days, it would have been an easy target. But when Jexitar saw the scanner warning and watched the recordings from the Void Striker, he ordered his ship to jump to hyperspace immediately. His crew thought he was being overly cautious, but he did not care. He had seen what happened to Captain Zethkar, and he had no desire to meet the same fate. Word of the incident reached the slave markets on Xerion Prime within days. The flesh traders who specialized in exotic species immediately removed humans from their wanted lists. The price for capturing a human had been very high, but it was not worth the risk anymore. Pirate captains across the galaxy began avoiding human shipping lanes. Raiders who had made their living by attacking merchant vessels suddenly found new hunting grounds far away from Earth space. The risk of encountering another Kate Rodriguez was too great. In the cantinas and spaceports where spacers gathered to drink and tell stories, the tale of the Void Striker became legend. Old veterans would tell young aliens about the day a human female killed 38 hegemony warriors with her bare hands. The scanner warnings exist for a reason, they would say. Humans are not like other species. They do not fight for honor or glory. They fight to win, and they never, ever give up. Meanwhile, Kate Rodriguez had made her way back to human space aboard Captain Zethkar's personal shuttle. The small ship was fast and well-equipped. She used it to reach a human trading station where she reported in to her military commanders. Mission accomplished, she told them, though not exactly as planned. Her superiors debriefed her extensively. They wanted to know every detail about the hegemony ship and its crew. The information would be valuable for future operations against alien forces, but the most important result of Kate's actions was already spreading across the galaxy. Human ships began noticing strange behavior from alien vessels. Ships that would have attacked them before now detected them and immediately jumped away. Trade convoys reported that pirate attacks had dropped to almost zero. Slave raiders avoided human space entirely. Even military patrols from hostile alien governments would scan human vessels and then retreat without making contact. Commander Jake Sullivan of the merchant ship Free Trader was one of the first to notice the change. His ship had been attacked by raiders 6 times in the past year. But in the 3 months after the Void Striker incident, no alien ship had even approached him. "What changed?" he asked his navigation officer. "I heard a story from some traders," the officer replied. "Something about a colonial marine who wiped out an entire hegemony ship. They say all the aliens are scared to mess with humans now." Jake laughed. "One person did all that?" "That is what they say. Some lieutenant named Rodriguez. The aliens have recordings of what she did, and they show them to their crews as training films." Jake stopped laughing. He had heard of Kate Rodriguez. She was a legend in the colonial marines. If she had really taken on an entire alien ship and won, then the stories were probably true. Back on Earth, military planners were very interested in the psychological impact of Kate's actions. One human soldier had done more to protect human shipping than an entire fleet of warships. She had reminded the galaxy why humans were feared and respected. The scanner warning about Earth-born vessels was updated again. This time it included specific instructions for alien commanders. Under no circumstances should any vessel attempt to board, capture, or engage human ships. Retreat immediately upon detection. Failure to comply may result in total crew casualties. The message was clear and simple. Humans were dangerous, very dangerous, and smart aliens would avoid them completely. In the years that followed, the legend of Kate Rodriguez grew larger with each telling. Some stories said she had killed 100 aliens. Others claimed she had destroyed multiple ships. The truth was impressive enough, but the legends served an important purpose. They reminded the galaxy that humans were not prey. They were predators, and predators should never be cornered or threatened because that was when they became most dangerous. The scanner had warned them. Captain Zethkar had laughed and ignored the warning. Now he was dead, and his ship was a monument to the price of underestimating humans. The message had been received loud and clear throughout the galaxy. Do not engage Earthborne vessels. Do not capture humans. Do not make the same mistake that Captain Zethkar made. Because sometimes the monsters from your nightmares are real and they wear human faces.